When you start, your wheel head needs to be dry. I'm just going to kind of lightly toss it there. If I find that it's not in the center, I can kind of take it and scoot it a little bit. So I'm going to get my wheel spinning, and I'm going to find a pretty decent fast speed. And then I'm going to take my foot off the pedal. I don't need to keep doing this while I'm working because then it's going to be really inconsistent, okay? Okay, if you find that when you take your foot off the pedal, it moves it, grab your hand and just adjust it from there. So I'm sealing it. So I need to push down, and I'm using my right pinky to seal the clay to the wheel head. And now, right now, you can see that there's definitely gaps underneath, correct? Okay, so I'm going to push down. I want it to go faster. I don't like the speed. So if I stop, you can see that the clay is connected to the wheel head. The next thing that I'm going to do is what's called coning. Coning is basically a potter's way of wedging clay. So we're going to bring the clay up and then we're going to push it back down, and what that does is it mixes the clay all together, and it also helps us to center the clay. So in order to cone, you are going to take your hands and you're going to weave them together like this. So you're like holding hands with yourself, okay? Wet all the time. So you're going to weave your hands like this. You're going to use your knees as your brace. So put your elbows against your knees. That is the biggest thing. People try to do this without having any sort of brace, and it does not work, okay? So I've got my brace. I'm going to come up here, and all that I'm doing is I am squeezing, and this is going to shoot up between my hands, okay? I'm not pulling or yanking the clay off of the wheel head. Definitely need to make sure that your hands are wet. So I'm going to cone up. Yes? I now have a nice cone. So then I'm going to bring it back down. In order to bring it back down, I am going to karate chop with my right hand and push with my left. Okay, so my right hand, this area is what's going to be doing the karate chopping down. The left hand is going to be this area here that's going to be pushing in. They need to work together in order to center the piece. This is bringing it down, this is pushing it in. Now I want to show you what happens. I'm going to brace my elbows again. If I only push down, well that works, that doesn't work. If I only push down and I don't push with my left hand, look what happens to the top of my clay. Yes, it mushrooms over. So that shows you how important that left hand is in keeping it together. So I'll show you what it should look like as I bring it down. I kind of like to brace them together like this. So this is my karate and this is my push in. So they're kind of working at the same time and connected to each other as well. So I'm going to push in and down at the same time. So I will end up with a piece like that. I'm going to bring it up again. I want you guys to cone it 3 times. So up, down, 3 times. All right, so the key right now is that we're checking to see that it's centered. Sometimes you'll get this extra like junky clay on there. If I put my hands on it and my hands don't wiggle, it's centered. Miracle, would you say that I'm centered right now? For the most part, but 100%? No. Do you see how my hands are wiggling just a little bit? Okay, that means I need to cone it again. I still can't get over that. Okay, and come back down. All right, so at this point, my hands are stable. Do you see how they're not moving at all? Yes, everyone sees that? I'm centered. A little bit better. All right, so at this point, I'm going to open the center, okay? I'm going to create an L and another L, okay? All I'm doing is I'm going to push my finger into the middle, and it's going to kind of like suck my finger into the hole, okay? So find the center, and I'm going to push down. So what you can do is you can take your finger, put it on the needle tool, poke it down to the bottom, all the way to the bottom of the wheel head, and then you put your finger all the way to where it touches the bottom of the clay. So that when I pull this up, I can tell that this is how much bottom I have in there, which is a little bit thin at this point. Okay, so I'm going to speed up again. I'm going to go to that fast speed. Okay, I had just used my L to get to the bottom. I'm now going to use my L to draw back towards my body. I'm going to keep my fingers vertical and pull backwards. And that is going to open it up. So at this point, I'm going to slow it down. So once I've put my fingers through and pulled the wall, I'm going to slow my wheel down so that I can pull my walls up. Okay, so I'm going to go
You should put it in reverse.
about there. No. Always go counterclockwise. Yes. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to add a little bit of water to my walls. I'm going to take my left thumb, hook it over my right. These fingers are going to go on the inside and create like they're going to counteract my outside finger. I'm going to use the pad of my middle finger to add pressure and pull my wall up. So my inside fingers are basically just stability, and this one is going to do all the pushing. So I'm going to go from the bottom, pushing with my right, drawing up to pull the wall up. So the thickness is about like that right now. We want it to be about pencil thickness. So like a normal number 2 yellow pencil, okay? I'm going to add a little bit of water to my walls again. I have to make sure that I'm pulling all the way from the bottom up to the top. I don't want to have a whole lot of thickness inside or in around the outside of the bottom, so I have to start from the bottom. And the other thing that I want you to be really careful about is a lot of people tend to pull this way, and then you end up with this big floppy wall that's going to fall over. So that's why I have you hook that left thumb so that you can actually pull upward, okay? So from here, pulling up again. The goal is just to get a straight vertical cylinder with nice even walls, about a pencil thick. The top lip is getting very, very, very thin, so if I find that, you can take your sponge or your hands and just kind of push down just a tiny bit just to guide that clay back together. Okay. So at this point in time, you can call this a finished cylinder. If this is the first one that you've thrown, awesome, call it a day. Okay, don't go crazy trying to make different stretched shapes or forms at this point. But if you are willing and ready to experiment, you can now stretch the walls. In order to do that, you can use your hands. You can also use one of the ribs that are in here. I'm going to start with my hand, and then I'll show you kind of how to do it with a rib. So I'm going to start again with the slow speed. So you're kind of giving it like a barrel belly in a sense. I'm going to bring this back in a little bit. As you stretch it, you're going to notice the walls getting thinner. If you find that they're getting way too thin, don't stretch it anymore, okay? So I'm just kind of giving this one a belly. I can also pull this out by working against my finger. If you have a bat, you're going to do the exact same thing. It's just going to be a little bit easier because you can actually just take it off and move with it. You are going to put a bunch of water on your wheel and drag your cutting wire across it. What it's doing is it's forcing that water to go underneath the piece and causing it to move. You can then take either a bat or a wooden board, and you can use your hand to catch the piece, which these are really narrow, so you may have to take them off. I'm going to try to bring it over here to the side and just catch the bottom of it here. There we go. Okay. You'll probably leave fingerprints. See how I left fingerprints? Just try not to squish it. Those we can trim off at the end, and I'll do a whole nother lesson on what trimming actually is.